protested anything? Anything at all? Have you ever done it? A luta continua. You don't do them before? Today we're talking about protest culture in Nigeria, or the lack thereof. There are so many things Nigerians complain about, right? And they want to see these things improved. And some Nigerians think that the reason why these things don't improve is that people are not willing to protest, to demonstrate, to apply pressure until the things that they want to work starts to work. And when I talk about protests, I don't mean just protesting against government. I'm also not talking about riots or revolts, right? I'm talking about peaceful demonstrations and protests, which are legal, by the way. They are the legal rights of Nigerians. That's actually our big hard fact today. In the 2007 case, Inspector General of Police versus All Nigeria People's Party, the Court of Appeal ruled that citizens do not need a police permit in order to demonstrate or protest. That's the law of the land. Peaceful protest is your right. You don't need anybody's permission to do it. In fact, it's not just your right, it's your duty as a citizen who loves your country to demonstrate against things that you don't believe are going well, things you believe are wrong. And when I say demonstration or protest, it doesn't even need to be against government or just government. It could be against an employer. It could be against a school. It could be against a business. It could be against a person or some institution. It doesn't matter. Nigerians have a right to protest when they are not satisfied. And yet most Nigerians don't. Some would say protest culture is dead or it's dying. And today, I'm hoping that by the time I'm done talking at 6 o'clock, we would have found out why. Today, we're talking to somebody who has almost become synonymous with the word protest. She's one of the engines behind Bring Back Our Girls. You must have seen pictures and videos of her at that fountain in Abuja, day after day after day. And her activism doesn't end with Bring Back Our Girls. She is vocal about so many different social and civic issues in this country. Aisha Yusufu, thank you so much for joining us on Hard Facts.
Thank you so much, Sandra, for having me. It's my pleasure to be here.
Now, Lagos, I want to hear from you as well, calling with your questions for Aisha Yusufu, but also tell me if you have ever been part of a protest before. What was it about? Any protest at all? Have you ever been part of it? What was it about? What was the outcome of the protest? Also, if you haven't been part of a protest, I want you to call me and tell me why. Is it because you've never had a problem that was worthy of a protest? Or do you just not believe that protests work? Or is there something that you're worried about, which is the reason that you don't go out to protest? Give me a call and let me know. Then tell me what you think is the reason that Nigerians don't protest enough. Let me know if you think, first of all, that Nigerians protest enough, or if you think protest culture is dead. What do you think we can do to change that? These are the questions I'm asking you as my second guest on the show. Send us WhatsApp messages 080-959-75805. You can watch Aisha and I on Facebook. She's joining us from outside Nigeria through Skype today. So you can watch on Facebook, Nigeria Info 99.3, YouTube Nigeria Info FM, and send your thoughts online. Send your thoughts via WhatsApp 080-959-75805. Or call us on 0700-993-993-993. Aisha, how did you get into active citizenship? What is it about you that makes you want to take public stands and protest against systems that you believe are wrong or oppressive?
I think for me, it's the way I was born. It's who I am. So, when people say to me, how are you able to do this? And I'm a bit taken aback because I'm thinking, okay, isn't this how we do things? And so, when you talk, and I'm quite glad the way you coined it, the way you put this whole topic, talking about protest, not just protesting to government, but protesting any wrong that you see. And I tell you, for people who have known me since I was born, this is who I've always been. I must tell you, it got me into a lot of trouble.
I can imagine.
And that I say to parents, you must allow your children to challenge you. You must allow your children to protest against you. You must allow them have that voice, because that is the only way we will bring up citizens and not slaves. So for me, as a young child, I protested anything that was injustice. If you look at my Twitter handle, you will see I said that I don't do labels, and that my mom says in my court, nobody wins. I'm always that vocal child, and I tell you, they get lots of trouble. But one of the things that I consistently found out was that when they needed an unbiased opinion, even that I'm talking from my parents' level, they needed someone that would say it the way it is. They would call me. Even though when it doesn't go that person's way, the person will not be happy with me. And I got used to it. I got used to, okay, you will say it, they won't be happy, some will be angry, sometimes they won't talk to you, but at the end of the day, they will still come back to that truth that you're talking about. So in terms of protest, I would say I've protested all my life. There's some few ones that I can think about. There is one particularly in 1992. 1992, I had gone off. I finished my secondary school in 1991, started university, University in 1992. And when I came back home, you know, you were not students, you're not big girl, big boy, you had people writing you. And I had this young man write to me who was like, you know, boyfriend kind of a thing. And my dad letter, and I was furious. I remember my dad, you know, then you all this post office, they would post a letter, you collect it, so letter. He came back, he read it before he gave me that letter. And when immediately I saw it, and I said to my dad, why did you read my letter? I'm an adult. This is my property. You had no right to read it. It was blah, 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 blah.
Wow.
Honestly. And we went on. And I was like, I took my stance on that. I'm like, no. Even before then, you know, one of the things I think back now, I'm like, I must have been like an old woman in a little
girl's body.
Yes. Before I was around the age of 10, I said to myself, the worst thing any human being can do to me is to kill me. And I said to myself, it's not the worst thing, because I'm going to die anyway. So what's you're going to do? So I was that child that even if you're beating me today, I won't shake. I know how adults hate that. You will break the cane for my body. After you don't finish, I go walk. I'm going to say, you don't finish, I walk out, they go. That was the kind of person I am. You know, so sometimes I look at like, it took that strong, I had that they call this stubbornness, but I don't think it's stubbornness. It's just insisting that things be done. And of course, I was also one person who would always obey the rule, always obey the law set down. These are the rules. But the only thing is that I will always ask, why are you setting this rule? Why are you telling me ABC? I shouldn't do ABC. I know sometimes parents don't like that. And I think for me, it's always important to explain to your children why. And when I had kids, I said to myself, if I ever have kids, I'm going to talk to my children, let them know this is the repercussion of this. This is why this is being done. Not just to say, do this, don't do that, as if you have zombies. And I'm glad I have two kids, a boy and a girl. I'm glad I've brought them up in a way that they challenge me. And you know what? My greatest moments as a parent are when my children challenge me, when they say, oh, this thing you've said, no, it's not that way. Because we were brought up to always believe that adults were right and never to say anything because of this thing called respect. I didn't believe in that. I believe fear is not the same thing as respect. And I will tell you, when my daughter was it 8 or 9? No, 9, between 9 and 10. I can't remember precisely which one she was. There was something she made me stop. I was supposed to take my son back to school at the Regent Secondary School in Abuja. And the Regent Secondary School is a school where discipline and everything, laws are obeyed. 8 p.m. as a boarding student, if you get to the gate is closed. You can't get. And so on this day, somehow we were late. 8 p.m., I had a choice, two choices. One, it was just a few minutes before 8 p.m. If I go one way, which is at night, if I follow the one-way road, I'm going to get to the gate before 8 p.m. and I'll be able to drop my son. But if I follow the longer road, which is the rightful road, definitely miss that 8 p.m. mark. And I was myself, I think she was 9 going to 10. That was 2011. So she was 9 going to 10, and then my son was 12. And I said to my children, I slowed down and I said to my children, this is where we are. It's night. Nobody is going to see us, of course. So we have to, should we do the wrong thing and go one way and get there on time, or should we do the right thing and follow? And my daughter from the back, you should jump them. No, mommy, you can't do the wrong thing. You know, it is wrong to go through one way. So I said, done, madam. And we actually went the right way. And as soon as getting to the gate, it was, I think, 2 minutes after 8. I knew the gate. And of course, I met another car there. You know, they were trying to beg. One of the things that I've always done with my kids, and I've always, it's that we must obey the rules. And as soon as we got, I said to my children, we're late. And we turned back. And guess what happened? When we turned back the following day, my son's things, so we just took a pair of uniform that we left everything in the car. And then the next morning, I woke up early to wake him up to get ready for school. Guess what? My son was already ready.
Oh, wow.
Yes. This is somebody that ordinarily I would have been, oh yeah, wake up. Wow, wake up. He was ready. Why? Because he had seen there was a consequence for bad behavior. We had gone to school late, and because of that, he couldn't go into the boarding. So he now had to come the following day as a day student, and then we would drop at the. And this is where a lot of parents miss it. Today, we have a lot of parents who will do anything for their children not to suffer consequences of bad behavior. We continue to reward bad behavior in Nigeria and punish good behavior. And that's part of the problem we have now. And from these two things, from this very event, but all of us learned something. I learned that I have to be consistent, whether it's night or day. I have to be consistent with my kids in the way that things are being followed. My son learned that if you don't do these things the right way, you will face consequences, and he had to miss his first day at school. And my daughter learned that she has a voice, and it's very legal, and that voice, she can voice it out at any time, whether it is mommy or anybody. I brought up my kids telling them that adults are not always right. Mommy is not always right. You can challenge mommy at any time. The only being I said to my children, you can't challenge is God. And that's why you have to get more. Aisha is your mom. Challenge her anytime you don't feel like doing things. And I think this is part of the thing. Our upbringing is a major problem. So when you talk about who I've always done protests in school. I've done protests even with my parents. I've done, how do I put it? I've done, in short, you have to protest things on every level. On a marital level, for example, there are issues that I learned, like, and I said to my husband, guys, I don't like this thing, you got to know. But when my husband first proposed to me, let me just share this one on a lighter note. When my husband proposed to me, I said to him two things. I'm always sick, and I'm very lazy. I hate housework, I hate cooking. Are you in? The guy... You know, say you lazy. I say, guy, I tell you now. I not tell you that's how you want to marry me. But the thing is that when you see people just stay on, when in the face of injustice, I find it unbelievable. Let me give you another experience of my protest in university. The first time, so after I left finished secondary school in 1991, I went off to Unionism University. Unfortunately, I couldn't finish. I was always sick. I was always this sickly child all the time until after I got married, that all the sickness just seemed to have vanished. I remember one time that was one of the reasons why I didn't even finish my medicine. I was reading medicine in ABU Zaria 1994, and then the school was closed down and everything. So I left and went to ABU. I remember a friend I had been brought back home from school in 1995. She said, Aisha, if you want to die, die, and let your parents, have relief. That was how much of a child you were. So when I went to Usman Danfodio University, that was the first time I did a protest. That was in 1992. I can't remember what it was we protested. Students, we all came out, we did the protest, and the school was locked, was shut down, and we all had to come back. I think that was during the time of, I don't remember whether it was Abacha's time or whatever. It definitely was during the era of the military. In 1994 also, I protested several times in ABU Zaria. And one of the protests that we had was because of the fact that I was a level 2 student. So after I left Usman Danfodio University, just for you to have a context, I did what is called IGMB, A levels, at the College of Arts and Science in Kano. I have my IGMB. I don't enter school through level 1. I do direct entry. So I entered what's called ABU Zaria direct entry as a medical student, 200 level French student. And then we now found out something. My fellow medical level 200 level student had been short. A course that they were not told was prerequisite when they were in year 1 was suddenly prerequisite while they were in year 2. And they made that law to be retrogressive. That means it will affect them. And so they were like, oh no, and everything. Even the ones in year level 3, they had that issue. But those ones, I don't know, they were a bunch of a bit more careful people. Myself, we had this radical in ABU Zaria. That's the 1993-1994 set of ABU Zaria level 2. And so we said no. And we did a protest. The level 3 students, they didn't join us. One. So what we did, we went on our own. And that day what we did, we didn't even do as if we were doing a protest. We all came together. We had our lab coats. We held it on. And we just walked into the administrative block in ABU Zaria. It's called Senate Building. We went into the Senate Building. Some of us entered the lift. As soon as we were into the Senate Building, we put on our lab coats and we started chanting. So we didn't have all the security people coming to stop us or whatever. And before they knew what was happening, we were at the 9th floor where the VC's office was. And I think that time it was Professor Saro, if I'm not mistaken, that was the thing. And we were there and we spoke about this thing. We said no, we were not going to agree. As of that time, I wasn't affected because I'm a fresh level 2 student. But hey, injustice to one is injustice to all.
All right, let's leave it at that. As much as I'm enjoying this, you said something that really hit me. You said that your parents raised you to be the child who challenges them, who thinks of them as not always being right. This is contrary to the way that a lot of Nigerians are raised.
Sandra, that's not my parents. That was myself raising my
Your
children.
own children,
Accept it because that was who I was.
Oh, I see. Okay. Now, do you think that because a lot of us are raised to not challenge our parents, because it starts from home, right? Socialization starts from home. Do you think that because a lot of us are raised to not challenge our parents at home, we carry that over into every other form of authority?
Absolutely. So what we did, we were told that parents are always right. You must not speak up to parents. You must not challenge them. I remember one time my dad had accused, something was done, and then he will accuse me. And later we found out who had done it. Was one of the cousins, one of a cousin. And I said to my dad, you see, you wronged me by this, your child. And apparently they said it was an abomination in our place for a child to say that the parent had wronged her. And father got angry with me and all of that, family meeting and whatever. But I said, well, it's the truth, and I want it. So what we did as adults is, and that's the African culture, is that we simply replace our parents and our teachers, the elders in our life, we replace them with government and those in authority. And that's the reason why we cannot challenge them. That's the reason why we say, oh, people cannot be challenged. We should just leave them the way they are. Oh, no, So when, for example, I said that the president is incompetent, is clueless, is corrupt, is inept, and a failure, people are angry at me saying it. They are not angry enough at the president's incompetence, cluelessness, corruption, ineptitude, and failure. And that's the major issue. Because of that, our upbringing that says adults are always right. So we need to respect. And I think the biggest thing is that this issue of respect that we Africans call respect, we need to do away with it. What is respect? Every human being deserves respect, whether they're a child of 2 or you're 80, everybody deserves respect, right? But that doesn't mean that issues should not be discussed. And I think that's where most times we
get it wrong. Lagos, let's talk. 0700-993-993. What do you think about Aisha Yusufu's point that children raised to challenge parents will grow into adults who can protest against government? 0700-993-993-993. WhatsApp is 080-959-75805. We've not even gotten into the meat of this conversation, and it's gotten really good. good. If you just joined us, have you ever protested anything? We're talking about protest culture in Nigeria, and I have Aisha Yusufu on the show with us, who's been telling us how for her, protests no be new something. She don't do an tete. They born and born protests. Larry is in Festac. Hello, Larry. Thank you so much for calling us.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Yeah, my son, something like that happened to him in the school. The teacher was teaching them, and he said, "Auntie, this thing is wrong. I'm right." The boy came home and said the auntie slapped him. And I said, "I'm going to tell the proprietor." My wife now said, "Joe, why you call for you someone like that?" I said, "This thing is wrong." The mother pleaded. That's why I didn't go to the school to report the teacher again.
So your child did the right thing, but the adults couldn't back up your child for doing the right thing.
It's the mother. I said I'm going because the guy is very, very good in maths. He said, "You are wrong," and he said the teacher give him a slap. I said, "Why?" And I told my wife, "What? This thing is wrong. I'm going to report that teacher." He said, "No, now you call for this someone like that or this." What do you mean by producing someone like that?
What lesson do you think your son learned from this encounter?
He came home, he was beat out. I said, "Why? You have right to what? You know this thing is wrong." Yes. And he said, the teacher said, "Are you the one that will teach me?" So then there's another one. This protest. One of my friends is a furniture maker. During festival time, they have association. So that day, I say, "Okay, let me follow people." When we go to that Freedom Park, so they went from Freedom Park to Governor's office. They sat down in front of Governor to the main entrance. I say in this Lagos. No tear gas, no battery, no. The thing was strange to me that day. So everybody have right to protest. Since that day, I say, "Oh, Nigeria is changing once more."
Larry, thank you for calling us. You know, Aisha, we often hear people say that based on how much Nigerians complain and how many things they complain about, there should be more demonstrations, there should be more protests, there should be more movements to put pressure on society and government. Do you agree that Nigerians are not agitating enough?
Nigerians are not agitating at all. It's not even that they are not agitating enough. Where's the agitation really? Only a few hundred people that we have there in a country where we have a population of 200 people. But you see, before I go on, let me just give you based on what the caller have just said. It reminded me of something. I went to a school, BUK South Secondary School in Kano, where we have an Irish woman as our principal. And you know, it was and we were the first set. We could challenge our teachers and all of that. I remember a particular time, English class, we had a Ghanaian, Mr. Adoble was his name, God bless him. So we had done something on comprehension, and he failed me and a few others. And then other people who had answered it a different way, they were right. When I got my book, I said, "No, sir, this is wrong. I'm right. You can't fail me. This is what the question was asking of." And I tell you, double period. It was on a Friday. Last 2 periods of the day, double period. We spent it analyzing that particular question. At the end of it, we didn't agree on anything. We left when it was time. On Monday, when Mr. Adobe came back, it was time for English lesson. The first thing he said, when he had gone through that question, he found out that myself and others that had answered it the way I answered it were the ones that were right, based on that was asked. So you can see with this, it tells the child that you can challenge. My children know that I've got their back. Nothing. When it comes to their right, I will be there and we'll talk about it. And teachers need to learn this. The issue of telling the child, "Oh, leave it and don't do anything about it," that's not. There's also, even in university, I had to fight for it, but that's for another. Let me go back to the question you asked. You see, Sandra, the biggest problem we have in Nigeria is that Nigerians think they have the patent to prayers. As long as Nigerians keep abdicating their responsibility to God, we will not do anything. We have a very selfish attitude. One, if something doesn't happen to us, we don't want to do anything about it. Secondly, also, we have this laid back, lazy attitude, this feeding bottle mentality. We think that if we just pray, everything will be okay. So instead of Nigerians to take action, they would rather go to their churches or their mosques or their shrine or whatever it is they believe in, and then they will pray, abdicate their responsibility and hand it over to God. We forget that God will not do for us what he has given us the capacity to do for ourselves. And lastly, before I don't end on this point, is the fact that, you see, Nigerians fight for God, but they leave their fight to God. When it is matter of religion, you will see that they will throw their wrapper away, they will throw their trousers away, they will be fighting each other, killing each other. But when it comes to matter of fighting for their right, that is when they will now abdicate it to God and say God will be the one to fix Nigeria. God will not. We will be the ones to fix Nigeria.
Let's take a quick break. You're listening to Hard Facts on 99.3 Nigeria Info. Aisha Yusuf is on the show with us, and we're talking about protest culture. Do you think Nigerians are protesting enough? Do you think we're not protesting enough? What's the reason we are not protesting enough? Do you think we can change that? Because like I said when we started the show, it is your right. Constitutionally recognized right. As far as it's a peaceful demonstration, you are backed by the law to do it. And it's not just against government. It's against any form of injustice. Are we doing enough of that? 0700-993-993-993. I am Sandra Ezekwesili. Don't go away.
Hard Facts will be right back.
Welcome back to Hard Facts with Sandra Ezekwesili.
It's 5:31. I'm Sandra Ezekwesili. Have you ever protested anything? I told you our big hard fact today. In the 2007 case, Inspector General of Police versus All Nigeria People's Party, the Court of Appeal ruled that citizens do not need a police permit in order to protest or demonstrate. So the law of the land recognizes your right to protest, to peaceful protest. And yet it appears that a lot of Nigerians do not. It appears that a lot of Nigerians agree that protest culture is dead or dying. And one of the reasons Aisha Yesufu, that is, she's on the show today as our guest, she thinks one of the reasons that has happened or is happening is that we're not raising enough children who know that they can challenge authority. It starts from the home. A lot of the things that we see in the society starts from how we raise our children. And she thinks, I wonder if you agree, she thinks that as long as we continue to raise children, number one, who do not know that they can protest, who can challenge their parents at home when they feel like an injustice is being done, as long as we continue to not have consequences for actions or believe in consequences for actions or continue to reward bad behavior instead of good behavior, and as long as we continue to leave the matter to God, these things mean that Nigerians will probably not have a lot of the things that are due them happen for them. 0700-993-993. Those are the numbers for the studio. Now, some Nigerians say that the reasons they don't protest, the big reasons why they don't agitate more, Aisha, is fear of reprisal, or pessimism, or nothing will change, or cynicism. Activists are getting paid. They will chop the money and they will go and sit down outside. What do you think about these reasons that are often shared?
They are all excuses. And these excuses they say are like shoes. You always find the one that fits. So because they don't come out to protest, and your conscience, every one of us, we have a moral compass inside that tells us when we're doing right or wrong, and for them to assuage that their conscience, they look for different excuses to justify why they have not joined. They will say, oh, activists eat money. And I said to them, why don't you come and protest and not eat money and be there? Oh, this and that. They are all excuses. But before I go on, the irony of the case you just talked about, the All Nigerian People's Party going to court, is that it was Muhammadu Buhari, the present president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, that went to court. He was tear-gassed in Kano. He had gone to do a revolution. He even called it a revolution after he lost the election. He had gone to Kano to do a revolution. His running mate was there with Chuba Okadibo, and the police tear-gassed them, and that was what led to Chuba Okadibo's death. And yet the same man went to court. And you know what is even more ironic? Femi Falana, that today this administration is hiring people to protest against him, was the one who took up that case pro bono. Buhari no get money. Tell us they don't get money before. And now they take our money, they do big boy. They pose now. Before they ask for money, they do. Femi Falana, he couldn't of course afford a stand. Femi Falana took that case on pro bono, and it was ruled that you do not, police have no right to ask to give permission. What you need to do is to send them at least 48 hours notification for them to come and provide protection. And that's just the irony of that. Coming back to people, making all sorts of excuses. They are all excuses. People are afraid. A lot of people say they don't want to die. And I've said this before, die not die. Now only one die we get. And anyway, that die comes, and so that die will be. People are dying in their houses every day. Corruption and bad governance is killing people. A young man just died recently. He had an accident. He was taken to hospital. Unfortunately, doctors were on strike, and then he died. Bad governance, corruption has killed him. People die. Roads that are supposed to be dualized, they are not dualized because somebody has eaten the money. Yet, people sit down in their houses and say they don't want to die. Terrorists are killing us. Bandits are killing us. All sorts of police stray bullets. You are in your house, they come and kill you. Yet, people forget that they are being killed every day because they think they will not be victims. They are not victims. I've said it before and I will repeat it again. Yesterday's victims were once survivors. Today's victims were yesterday's survivors, and tomorrow's victims will be today's survivors. I always ask this question: who is next? Those that have died before, they won't die again. The next to be killed are those of us that are alive. People are saying, God forbid, they are praying. Even the people that have been killed, they also say, God forbid, once upon their life. Let me just share a quick story with you of my time in university. So I have gone to 3 universities: Usman Danfodio University, ABU Zaria. I finally landed in BUK that I never wanted to go to because I was born and brought up in Ghana and I wanted to do university elsewhere. I finished in BUK. In BUK, that was 1996. I had a subject, a course, a particular course was inorganic chemistry. When the result came out, you know that I don't know whether they still do, they will put a result on the board. I failed the course. And I couldn't believe, how come did I fail this course? There was no exam. It was assignment which I passed and also practicals. And my group members, everyone got a B. How come I'm the only one that failed? And I took it up. And you know, one of the things that I find in Nigeria is that when somebody is fighting for his or her right, a lot of people will be discouraging you. Just leave the matter. I shall go and register the course. I say I won't register the course because I didn't fail this course. How will you tell me that I failed inorganic chemistry of all the courses to fail in this work? And so I went to meet the lecturer and I said, I saw, you know what the lecturer said to me? He said, you have seen it on the board that you failed. So that means it. I said, no. Because before that happened, the semester before that, a particular lecturer had failed me. What happened? We came for a test late, practical, and he said, those of us that came for this practical late, we didn't do, we're going to fail it. We took, and even in that case, on the board, it was written I had passed it. It was when I checked the details, our level coordinators used to allow us check our details. I thought I failed it. So I said to him, no, sir, that won't work. The lecturer was playing with me. I left him, I went directly to the head of department, HOD. The HOD too wasn't taking the matter seriously. People were saying, I shall just let this thing be. It wasn't, that was in the chemistry department. I was in biological sciences. I said, no. I took the matter to the dean of faculty of science. Can't remember his name, the one that was there in 1996. He minuted, I had to write a series of applications and he minuted on it. And then I sent me back to the department. When I got the department, people were very angry. Why? I said, this matter, I'm not leaving it. I was a student here. I'm fighting this to the end. At the end of the day, guess what happened? They had made a mistake. They took some of my marks and gave it to somebody that did not even offer the course, but his number was before mine. My own number was as SCI 95 2068. His own was 2069. He didn't do the course. They gave him field. Because what happened was that they put the marks together and they found an average. So I was missing that chunk of mark. At the end of the day, they gave me a C. Even though my group members had gotten there, I was okay with a C. I didn't want to carry over. But you know what I found most annoying is the fact that people kept discouraging me for fighting for my rights. I said, no, just leave it. Aisha, your own is too much. Even let me give you another example. I can't remember the year. Some years ago, I stopped, police were doing, one way. You know the road I told you earlier that my daughter stopped me from going on one way. Mm-hmm. Police were always, and anytime I would pass, I was like, well, these people, one day, unluckily for them, I was opposite them when they were coming. I blocked their car. I did a video of it. It's on my Twitter handle. They were coming and I was telling them, they were like, oh, no, that they are on emergency. I said, it's not an emergency. I know where you're going to. Because they were going to the school where my children were, the Regent Secondary School. And as of that time, I think the vice president's child was there. It's a school where who is who in Nigeria is there. So I knew, I had just dropped my children. I knew where you were going to. You were just going there to go and protect some governors' wives and all of that. Because it was a day, our children were playing football. I had dropped my children away. But you guess what? Nigerians are, madam, let it go now. Nigerians abused me. They insulted me over that video just because I said police had to do the right thing. But lo and behold, I stood there that day. The police had to turn and go and do a long way. But you know what they now did? Because there were people who were cheering, where they now came back and arrested the people that were by this thing. So in the evening, in the afternoon, when I came to pick my children, they stopped them. They were not telling me that police had arrested people who were just bystanders. They were not the one that blocked them. It was more Aisha that blocked them, but they didn't arrest me. They now arrest those bystanders. And I took that case up. And I remember the police, what was this name? This guy that they have taken to a remote village. He was the PRO force. Yemi, I can't remember his name. He was the one, they took it up and those people were afraid. But you see, Nigerians will not only not fight for their rights, they will discourage those who are fighting for their rights because they want all of us to be the same, so that they will say nobody is fighting for our rights. That's why they make all of those excuses.
We have somebody who says, I think protest is dead. There was a time at the university due to issues the student union government were not satisfied with. They went out for a protest. The protest got out of hand because some Agberu joined it. Then all sorts happened. But you know what happened later? The president of the union was suspended for 2 years, and some of the key members of his cabinet, the school government said they were training us, the students, to not just in learning and sound judgment. The student had legitimate reason to protest, but also they have a lot to lose. Student union was also banned, and since then, I have not heard a luta continua. You know, the previous pressure group we had in this country probably started from the university, but nowadays, schools give you the memo to sign that when you protest, your admission should be withdrawn. Then we had to be on our best behavior. When we got to the real world, when there's a reason to protest, we see police, we run. We're not going to come back. Do you agree with this person?
Absolutely. That was, in short, that was the next point I was going to raise. Student unionism was killed, and that's part of the reason why we are where we are today. When we had student unionism vibrant, where students could stand for their right, where anything. I mean, things are happening in the country. The students will shut down the country. That's how you go on. Most of the people that you see them protesting way before during the military era and all of that, you find out that we all had that. It came from student unionism. There was a question that somebody asked, and I think it ties down to this, where he said, well, on the Twitter handle, you shared this on Twitter. There was something I shared too. Somebody saying that, why is protest easier during the military era than the civilian era? Because we seem to have had protests during the military era.
Yeah.
And part of the things that I wrote here, number one, is that student unionism. When student unionism was killed, of course, it killed the issue of people coming out, ability to protest. Because when you are not used to protest, when you've never fought for your right, imagine in the university and you are accepting everything that is being done and said to you, and you go like that, you're going to be this human being that will come out. There's a particular private university, I think it's even more than one, where they say students can't own phones, they can't own certain phones, they have to do this, they have to go for worship, different sets of rules. And I said to somebody, I can never send my child to that kind of university. For what? University, you're supposed to go into an adult. Yet you will make mistakes. You have to learn from your mistakes. You now monocoddle them as if they're in primary school. And then one day you now drop them in the society. Are we bringing up dummies? You want children to always be in this best behavior? And I think part of the thing is that parents want to see, they want to impose on their children. I always say, you give birth to your children doesn't mean you own them. You don't have to live your life through them. They have to follow this. They have their lives to live. And you must ensure, allow them the wings to fly. What you need to do as parents is let them know that talk to them. These are consequences for every bad behavior. But so imagine students who have gone through that. I didn't even know this happened, that you actually now sign a memo that you will not, if you protest, admission letter. So how do we expect you will have to protest? Another thing, looking at that person who asked that question, whether it's easier in the military era, it's not easier. It's not the era itself. It's the players, it's the citizens. Unfortunately, today, we have people who, they have this microwave mentality. Things are done. Put it in, it's done. You will want food. So things come easy. So they don't know what it is. This tenacity of being on the street, of fighting, of going on, of never giving up. A lot of people...
Yes, but how about the people who were alive during the time that tenacity was in vogue? So the old student union people, because they say, okay, if children don't know what to do, adults lead the way, Abby. But even the adults, we don't see them leading the way with the protests. So the young are not doing it, the old are not doing it. So how do we start it again?
Let me come in there. The person that was my son, my son was born in 1999, right? My son today is an adult. He doesn't know what military era is. He's a young adult, and that is the age where people are vibrant, people take on issues. We're still expecting the Walesho Inkas of this world that helped radio houses to rise up during Biafra to host it, to come and still be fighting for us. We're still expecting the much older generation to fight for us. We can't do that. They have done their bit. We need to do our part, even the younger generation. The thing is that as people age, they have responsibility. They have a lot of things to do. And then fear begins to come in. A young person, most likely, doesn't think of that way. He's going out and standing there and fighting for his right and all of that. The more you age, the less you are able to come out and throw everything on the line. Somebody is thinking he's the breadwinner. If he's killed today, his family are not going to have anything, especially in a country where if you're poor, you're faceless, nameless, and voiceless. A country where access to good quality education is dependent on the economic status of one's family. If you don't have money, your children are going to suffer, they die. But a young person who just left university or in the university isn't thinking of those things. And these are the people who make things move. Let me give you an example. I'm in Scotland right now, precisely Aberdeen. I went to a Black Lives Matter march. Who took me there? My daughter. She came in. She's a student here in Aberdeen, and she called me that she was like, "Mommy, we have a march. Are you coming?" And for me, it was such a beautiful moment because normally I'm the one who used to tell them, "There's a march. Do you want to come?" As of this moment, 2020, she's the one telling me, "Mommy, there's a march. Do you want to go?" And I'm like, "Yes, of course, I want to go." Put on my march or early within the period of the coronavirus. You know when the Black Lives Matter was going on. Me or something like we went. And lo and behold, when we got there, do you know how many? The person who organized it is a Scotsmate of ours in the University of Aberdeen. Do organize it. And when we got there, the people I looked around, I was the oldest. I was like a parent generation. They were all teenagers. They were all young adults. Most of them were like, my daughter is 18. Most of them were 18, 19, 20, 20 something. And if you see the number, they were massive.
And this takes me back to where we started. The children in Scotland, the children in America who are the main leaders of these protests, the children in Hong Kong who are the main leaders of these protests, are children who are raised in families where challenging your parents is okay.
Absolutely. That's the difference. That's the difference. It was in the midst of coronavirus. It was, we are on lockdown and everything. When she called for this, I didn't say to her, "Aliyah, don't go for this protest. This is that." No, I jumped and I followed her. And my children have done protests in Nigeria. My son was part of the Not Too Young to Run protest. He had been part of BBOG. Same thing with my daughter. They've been on a lot of protests. But you see parents who call their children and say, don't go. I don't want them to kill you. But yet, corpses are being given to parents every day in Nigeria because of the bad governance we have, because of the corruption in our land. And for me, one thing I've always said, Sandra, I will not be an irresponsible parent. I will not hand over the problem of Nigeria to my children to fight. I want my children to come and be fighting sophisticated fight, not this mundane kind of fight. Let my children be fighting for the right of bees to have flower for pollination. I bet the people when they fight for that kind of right, they better pass my children. Let us fight for a nation and hand over a great nation to our children. Our parents failed us, and here we are doing the same thing. We are failing our children, and that's not right.
Now, some people say that protests don't change anything. You can't blame Nigerians who are pessimistic about protests. They've seen a lot of protests that ended up not working. They start to cite Showere's protests, right? And then you also see that even though there's a Supreme Court ruling telling Nigerians you have a right to protest peacefully without needing permission from police or any government agency, there are still crackdowns on people who decide to protest, right? Why does this continue to happen? And do you think that the fear of crackdown, of dying, of tear gas is a valid enough reason, to not protest? I mean, how do people like you remain optimistic? What keeps you going that someday my voice will count for something?
Sandra, I grew up in the ghetto where I would go to school in the morning without breakfast. Coming back home, I wasn't expecting lunch. By the age of 11, all my friends were married up. I grew up in Kwanaho, a place called Kwanaho in Kano. And I remember my dreams were crazy. I told my parents I wanted to travel the world. I was a lazy child. I couldn't do much of housework. I always read. And they would tell me, no man is going to marry me. I can't stay in the man's house because I can't clean and everything. And I would say to them, I would get machines and all of that to do these things for me. In 2014, my mom called me and she said, at that time I was 41. She called me and she said, "Thank you for dreaming for the whole family. I've always not gotten things on a platter of gold. There's not much time. I would have told you how I got admission into ABU Zaria, the tenacity of going every day. For 3 months, I was fighting to get that admission. My parents couldn't afford the money to pay for my transport from Kano to Zaria. I was lucky enough to get a family that allowed me to stay with them. And at the end of the day, people said I won't get the admission. I got it. So I am somebody who believes, and when I believe in something, I go for it. I said the other day, I tweeted something that the fact that once upon a time in Nigeria, we were told that GSM was not for poor people, mobile phone was not for poor people, and we believed it. And a policy and leadership changed that. And today, almost every Nigerian can almost afford a mobile phone. That tells me that a great Nigeria is possible. There's something I said to myself, that question you asked me, I said, I will never give up on Nigeria no matter what it throws at me. Because I will fight for the unborn generation the way I wish others had fought for me before I came to Nigeria. Having said that, one of the things I have is that people use excuse not to come out and do protests. The reason why a few people are being beaten up is that we never get a critical mass. If you have a critical mass for a protest is between 1 to 2% of population. 1% of Nigerian population is 2 million people. Imagine 2 million people on the streets of Nigeria. Buhari will bow. That guy will like power like no man's business. He will listen to the people. But you allow 50 people to protest on your behalf. You allow 100 people. When we are talking Nigeria, we say they are the most populous black nation in Africa. But when it comes to protest, we become the scantiest. We know where it's going. Other small countries that are not up to a state in Nigeria, they will bring out 1 million people on the street. But Nigeria can never do that. For people who say protests do not work, let me tell them they should stop looking for excuses. Those just are excuses. I will give them an example of protests that happen. Bring back our girls movement, continue to protest and still protest over 6 years. And guess what? The 107 Chibok girls are back. NASA women were brought back because of the protests will continue. Unimed lecturers, the same thing. I will talk about Nigerian Immigration 2000, where 2,000 officers that had been employed and trained were sent away by Paris administration. We protested. We were in front of Villa. We slept at the Villa. A colleague of mine slept off too, and I left that place, I think about 2 or 3 a.m. and I came back the following day, 5 a.m. My colleagues and the rest of the protesters, they slept there because the presidency refused to listen to them. They were forced to listen. 1,005 of them were brought back. Another one is not too young to run. They kept on the issue. They kept protesting. They kept working on the issue, and they got that bill signed. Occupy Nigeria, whether you like it or not, it led to something, and the first statutory was reduced. A march against social media bill, I was part of it in December 2015. It was the 8th Assembly that first of all brought in. Because of the protest of the people, they had to step down that bill. And it came again with this 9th Assembly, and people are on the street. So for those who keep saying that protests don't work, I don't know, probably because they've never attended a protest before. Another protest I must never forget is the Abuja raid on women. When we did that protest and we got issued, and I know a lot of people called me to say that, why are you protesting for prostitutes? Don't you know they are sex workers? And I said to them, whatever people do in their lives is their personal business. The right I have to wear hijab is the right another person has not to wear hijab, or not to wear mini, or not wear anything at all. They are adults doing their thing. They are in the strip club. It's their personal business. I must not put my religious injunction on other people the same way they cannot put their own on my own, and we must allow people freely live their lives. You know, we have this hypocrisy where we think we are the ones that are going to fight for God instead of us to fighting for ourselves. And it works. So when people say that protests don't work, I ask them, is it that you don't attend protests or you've not been watching it? They are just using that as an excuse so that they will say that's the reason why they stayed at home. They are just excuses. And you remember what I said before, excuses are like shoes. You always find the one that fits.
Aisha Yusufu, you have been brilliant. I wish we had more minutes. I wish we had 2 hours. I'm going to bring you back. I'm going to bring you back so that we can talk about this yet again. We need to keep doing this until people wake up. Aisha, thank you so much for taking time to talk to us. You've been great. Thank you.
Thanks so much for having me. It's been a pleasure being here.
All right, Lagos. My God. Where does the time go? I know. I have goosebumps. I do. I've got goosebumps. Does anyone else have goosebumps? Okay. Hey, if you just tuned in, you can catch up later on our podcast. Hard Facts is available as a podcast. Hard Facts with Sandra Ezekwesili. I have a lot of comments. People telling me that they have actually protested. So, Thomas from Alaka says, I only protested once and it came out well for me and my cousin. We were working with a cleaning company then, and they wouldn't pay into a 12. They wouldn't pay into our account, I guess, until 12th of the next month. And I gathered every one of us and we agreed that money that will not go to work unless we were paid. But to my greatest surprise, the others backed off and it was left, and my cousin and I were left to face the consequences. But we were moved to a better place because we protested. We have not protested at all as Nigerians. Thomas, thank you so much for sharing that story with us. Somebody says Aisha Yusufu is a great woman. Someone else says Aisha must come back. She's unbelievable. She's the conscience of this country. Nigeria is not protesting because protest in Nigeria is like voting in Nigeria, whereby our vote doesn't count, our protest also doesn't make impact. Well, you heard all the examples that Aisha gave about the different times where protests have actually yielded results. I'm always sharing the examples with you right here on Hard Facts every time that something that people protest yields results. So it's like Aisha said, excuses are like shoes. You're always going to find one that fits. Lagos, it's been real. Let's do it again tomorrow, shall we? I'll bring you the big three, and then we're going to talk about something happening in Lagos with e-hailing cab operators. Apparently, they're about to start paying service charge to the government. Tomorrow at 5 p.m., we'll have that conversation right here on Hard Facts. In the meantime, let's talk online. Ezekwesili everywhere. Ezekwesili everywhere. Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. That's where you'll find me. Until tomorrow, those were your Hard Facts, Lagos. Good night.
It's okay. That is okay. Let me explain. No, it's okay. Let me explain. It's okay. It's okay. She. Off your mic.
On 99.3 Nigeria Info, your mic is always on. Let's talk.